Hey everyone, and welcome to our Introduction to Cellular IoT session. I'm Jessica, and I'll be your guide today. I know a lot of you who are new to IoT might be wondering, we talk about cellular IoT all the time, but what is it really? What are the key technologies behind it? And what's the business story that makes it so important? So, for this next hour, we're going to do a full walkthrough of the cellular IoT landscape. We'll break it all down, starting with the technologies you might already know, like NB-IoT and LTE-M. Then we'll move up to 4G categories, like Cat 1 and Cat 4. And finally, we'll dive into the 5G tech that's really starting to change entire industries. We're not just going to look at the technical differences, we'll connect them to the real-world scenarios where they shine. And crucially, we'll highlight the role Milesight plays in all of this and the specific value we deliver to our customers. And more than just making sure you hear the information, our real goal is to help you build a clear mental map. We want you to walk away understanding why these specific technologies are right for certain jobs, why these application scenarios make sense, and most importantly, what Milesight has actually achieved in this space. Let's get started. I'm sure most of you have heard of cellular networks. You go into your phone's settings, turn on cellular data, and boom, you're using 4G or 5G. But what exactly is a cellular network? Basically, it's a mobile communication setup. The reason it's called cellular is because the coverage areas of these signal towers are shaped like hexagons, kind of like a honeycomb. If you look at this diagram, you'll see the area is divided into cells. Each cell has its own tower, and each tower uses a different frequency than its neighbors. By arranging them in hexagons, you only need 7 different frequencies to make sure no 2 adjacent cells are using the same one. In cities, these cells might be only 800 meters apart. Out in the countryside, they could be as far as 8 kilometers apart. And as you move between cells, your phone automatically switches to the new tower's signal, smoothly and without you even noticing. Pretty cool, right? So let's walk through the evolution of cellular networks. Now, in the world of mobile communications, we've had several major technologies, GSM, UMTS, LTE, and now NR. But these aren't the only ones out there. They're just the most widely adopted. For today, we'll focus on the mainstream ones. GSM, also known as 2G, UMTS, or HSPA, which is 3G, LTE and its advanced version LTE-A, that's 4G, and NR, new radio, which we all know as 5G. This whole journey started back in the 1980s with 1G, and since then, roughly every 10 years we've seen a new generation arrive. And with each new G, we got something new. Fresh frequency bands, faster speeds, and new ways to transmit data. 1G was all about analog voice. You might remember those brick phones from classic Hong Kong movies. That was 1G. It was basically just voice calls. Then came 2G in the 1990s, the shift to digital. It gave us better call quality and more network capacity. Plus, it introduced SMS, yes, text messaging, and very basic data transfer. GSM was the big standard here. 3G arrived in the early 2000s, bringing us into the broadband era. With higher data speeds, we could finally browse the web and stream music on our phones. UMTS was the most common 3G system. With 4G, which took off around the early 2000s, we entered the smart era. LTE technology gave us seriously faster data, high-quality video streaming, and a much smoother mobile internet experience. And now we have 5G. It started rolling out around 2019 and is currently the latest commercial mobile technology. With its super high speeds, super low latency, and massive network capacity, 5G is built to connect everything. It's really the start of the Internet of everything. So, we just mentioned that the main technology behind 4G is LTE. But what exactly is LTE, and is it the same thing as 4G? In a nutshell, LTE stands for long-term evolution. And that name really tells the story. It was the long-term evolution path for the 3G standard, UMTS. Think of it as the ongoing, step-by-step upgrade from 3G to what would eventually become true 4G. This work is done by the 3GPP organization, which operates using a system of releases. You can think of a release like a detailed roadmap or a game plan, and they're always working on several of these roadmaps in parallel at any given time. Now, through this iterative process, something important happened. Release 10. This was the point where the technology finally met all the official criteria for 4G. From then on, LTE became synonymous with 4G. You've probably seen 4G LTE on your phone, and the data speeds just kept getting faster and faster. But here's the challenge. Traditional cellular technology was never a great fit for a huge part of the Internet of Things. It used too much power, and the hardware could be expensive. For battery-powered sensors that only need to send tiny amounts of data, but exist in their thousands, it just wasn't the right solution. This is where things really changed. With Release 13, 3GPP organization officially introduced two new cellular technologies built specifically for IoT. They are NB-IoT and LTE-M. These were game changers. They were designed from the ground up to be low cost, low power, and to handle that low bandwidth data that so many IoT applications need. That was the moment cellular truly opened its doors to the massive world of IoT. So, what is this cat we keep mentioning? And no, we're definitely not talking about the furry animal. When the 3GPP organization was creating the LTE standard, they had a key goal. They wanted LTE to provide different levels of service for different types of users and devices. To make this happen, they introduced the concept of UE category. Let's break that down. UE stands for user equipment. That's your phone, an IoT module, any device that connects to the network. And CAT is simply short for category. So a UE category is basically a device's capability class. It tells the network exactly what kind of upload and download data speeds that device can handle. Think of it like the engine size in a car. A higher CAT number means a more powerful connection, with the potential for much faster download and upload speeds. For example, LTE Cat 1 is perfect for low-speed IoT applications, while LTE Cat 4 supports much faster mobile broadband, like HD video streaming. Now, here's where it gets interesting. In the early 4G days, from releases 8 to 11, 3GPP defined categories from Cat 1 all the way up to Cat 12. Back then, the upload and download speeds were bundled together in one definition. For instance, Cat 4 meant your device could do 150 megabits per second down and 50 megabits per second up. If you wanted to change just one of those, you had to create a whole new category. It wasn't very flexible. But in the real world, you often need one speed more than the other. Like you might need high download speed for watching videos, but you don't need a super fast upload. Bundling them together wasn't efficient. So starting with Release 12, 3GPP got smarter. They started defining downlink and uplink capabilities separately, giving everyone much more flexibility. Then by Release 15, they began defining the categories for 5G. Today, categories like Cat 1, Cat 4, Cat 6, and Cat 7 are all commonly used across the cellular IoT landscape. With each new 3GPP release, we see cellular technology branching out into high, medium, and low-speed paths. And each of these paths opens up completely different application possibilities. Now, if you look at this diagram on the left, it looks a bit like a person walking, right? It clearly shows the evolution from basic 2G voice, all the way to LTE and 5G. Think of the data speed like your mode of transportation. You start on a bicycle, then you get a car, then you hop on a high-speed train, and finally you're on a plane. The speed gets incredibly fast and the latency drops to almost nothing. But, as you'd expect, the cost and the power consumption also go up. Now let's look at the diagram on the right. This illustrates what we often call the 60-30-10 rule for IoT connections. Basically, it breaks down like this. 60% of all IoT connections will be handled by low-speed narrowband networks. 30% will need a mid-tier, medium-speed network, and only about 10% will require a true high-speed connection. So, where does that leave our technologies? LTE Cat 1 is perfectly positioned to capture that 30% of mid-speed applications. We're talking about things like fleet management for trucks, body cameras for police officers, and push-to-talk services. You know, those walkie-talkie-like services that let you press a button to talk to one person or a whole group instantly. But the real workhorse of the IoT world is going to be narrowband. It's designed to handle the massive 60%, the vast majority of connections. Classic use cases here are smart meters, smart street lights, smart parking sensors, and environmental monitoring. These devices just need to send tiny bits of data very efficiently, and NB-IoT is built exactly for that. We know cellular IoT lets devices use the same network infrastructure as your mobile phone. And just like your phone needs a SIM card, these cellular IoT devices need one too, though they often use a smaller, embedded version. This chart here is really helpful because it organizes the current mainstream IoT connectivity technologies for us. The simplest way to look at it is to group them into two main buckets, LP1 and non-LP1. Now, within the LP1 category, which stands for Low Power Wide Area Network, we have another split. You have the cellular-based options, which are LTE-M and NB-IoT. And then you have non-cellular technologies, like LoRa and Sigfox. On the other side, in the non-LP1 bucket, we have our more traditional cellular technologies. This is where 5G and 4G LTE live. And 4G LTE itself can be broken down further. You have Cat 4 and above, which are for things like mobile broadband and high-speed real-time video streaming. And then you have Cat 1, which is perfect for those medium to low-speed IoT needs. Think of applications like shared bikes, point-of-sale systems, and fleet management. All right, let's talk about the global picture for a moment. According to Counterpoint's latest Global Cellular IoT Tracker, we hit a major milestone in 2023, 3.3 billion cellular IoT connections worldwide. That's a solid 24% year-over-year growth. And the momentum isn't slowing down. The forecast shows us smashing through 6.2 billion connections by 2030. That's a steady growth rate of close to 10% every single year. So what's driving all this growth? It's really coming from the widespread adoption across key sectors like utilities, automotive, industrial, retail, and healthcare. Now, if we look at the geographic breakdown for 2022, China is the undisputed leader here, accounting for over 2/3 of all global connections. They're followed by Europe and then North America. Technologically, it's interesting to see how different regions have their favorites. China runs primarily on NB-IoT. Meanwhile, places like Australia, Japan, and North America tend to prefer LTE-M for their low-power needs. Europe, being pragmatic, supports both technologies. Looking ahead to 2030, 3 key applications are projected to dominate, making up over 60% of the entire market: automotive, metering, and retail. And here's another critical shift. By 2030, we expect 5G connections to actually surpass NB-IoT on a global scale. In fact, 5G is forecast to generate nearly half of all IoT connectivity revenue. Finally, as this cellular ecosystem continues to grow and scale, the price of connectivity keeps coming down. This makes cellular a much stronger competitor against other non-cellular options, like LoRa, Sigfox, and WeSun. So the same report highlights that 4G and NB are by far the most popular technologies in the cellular IoT space. As of the end of 2022, these two technologies together made up almost 90% of all global cellular IoT connections. And just to be clear, when we say 4G here, we're talking about all its different capability classes, all the categories. Now, here's an interesting trend we've been seeing in recent years. 4G Cat 1 bis is actually starting to quickly replace NB in a lot of applications. Why? Because it offers better performance. We're seeing this shift happen in things like POS systems, connected vehicles, and smart meters, which are all adopting Cat 1 bis on a large scale. As you can imagine, with shipments of both 4G Cat 1 and Cat 1 bis devices going up and up, the market growth for NB has basically started to stagnate. Now, what about 5G? It's still in its early stages for sure. But the big news is that the average price for a 5G module has now dropped below $100. Combine that with more and more streamlined, cost-effective 5G solutions hitting the market, and we expect the adoption of 5G to really pick up speed in the next few years. The Internet of Things is a huge world. So, for network operators, the big task is to match the best radio technology to each specific device. Now, we're all pretty familiar with Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, right? But not everyone is as familiar with the cellular-based options for IoT, technologies like LTE-M and NB-IoT. What is NB-IoT? It stands for Narrowband Internet of Things. In simple terms, it's a cellular-based, low-power, wide-area network standard, a type of LP1 technology. It was defined by 3GPP in their releases 13 and 14, with each release supporting different upload and download speeds. Here are a couple of crucial things to remember about NB. It has very limited mobility and no voice support. It only supports handovers between cell towers if the device is moving under 30 kilometers per hour, and its roaming capability is pretty poor. Because of this low mobility, we generally don't use NB for applications like fleet management or cross-border cold chain tracking. This technology was designed with a specific mission from the start, to be low power, long range, high connection density, low cost, and have superior signal coverage. In fact, NB provides a 20 decibel gain in maximum coupling loss compared to old GPRS technology. Think of that as a 100 times improvement in coverage power. This means it can reach places like underground garages, basements, and pipelines. However, deep indoor coverage is still a challenge for macro network operators, which is why at Milesight, our NB devices are typically targeted at outdoor smart city scenarios. Since NB is a cellular technology, deploying its network requires upgrading base stations to support it. It has 3 common deployment modes: standalone, guard band, and in-band. You don't need to be experts on these modes, just knowing they exist is enough. The story for NB looks pretty different depending on where you are in the world. Globally, the market was estimated at about $4 billion in 2023, and it's projected to grow to over $22 billion by 2030. That's a solid compound annual growth rate. But, and this is a big but, if we look at the real-world shipment data from Counterpoint's latest 2024 report, the picture on the ground is changing fast. Here's what's really happening. Cat 1 bis has become the fastest growing category, with shipments exploding by 100% last year. A lot of this growth is being driven by applications like asset tracking and smart meters. On the other hand, shipments for both NB and standard Cat 1 saw a major drop, down 34% and 51% respectively. Now let's talk about China. Even there, application providers are increasingly leaning towards Cat 1 bis because it offers a better balance of cost, power consumption, and network coverage. This leads us to the regional split, which is really key. In places like China, Russia, and much of Asia Pacific, the market is still predominantly NB. But in the US and Mexico, the major carriers have already invested heavily in LTE-M, so they're continuing to focus on that instead of NB. A great example is AT&T. They've actually started shutting down their NB network across the US and are looking at alternatives like 5G Red Cap. And in other major markets, the support just isn't there. Europe's largest operator, Orange, doesn't support NB, and Japan's NTT Docomo doesn't either. So the big takeaway is that the technology choice is highly regional. All right, let's talk about LTE-M. In simple terms, you can think of it as light 4G or 4G optimized for IoT. It's essentially a streamlined, more efficient version of the regular 4G network we all know. Its main goal is to connect IoT devices, things like smart water meters or vehicle trackers, that don't need super fast speeds but absolutely require long battery life and a stable, reliable connection. It has a few standout advantages. First, it's incredibly power efficient. A device can potentially last up to 10 years on a single battery. Second, it has great wall-penetrating coverage. It can maintain a stable connection even in tough spots, like underground parking garages or deep inside factories. And most importantly, it supports seamless mobility and voice. Your device can move around without dropping the connection. This last point is the biggest difference between LTE-M and its cousin, NB. Let me give you an analogy. Think of NB as an excellent stationary guard. It's perfect for devices that stay in one place, like a parking sensor or a smart fire hydrant. On the other hand, LTE-M is like a mobile scout. Here's a real-world example. Imagine a logistics truck equipped with an LTE-M module driving from Beijing to Shanghai. Just like your phone, it can seamlessly switch from one cell tower to another while moving at high speed. It can handle speeds over 100 kilometers per hour without a problem. This is something NB simply cannot do. So, here's the practical takeaway. LTE-M has a much wider range of applications. It can cover almost all the static use cases that NB handles, plus it completely owns the scenarios that require mobility, like connected vehicles and wearables. To sum it up, if you're looking for a stable, power-efficient connection for moving devices, or for a scenario that needs voice functionality, LTE-M is an ideal choice. In 2024, the global LTE-M module market was worth around $1.5 billion. If we look at the total number of connections worldwide, NB is still far ahead of LTE-M, and it's expected to keep that dominant position for quite some time. NB also covers a much wider geographic area than LTE-M. In North America, LTE-M is already quite mature. As I just mentioned, AT&T plans to shut down its NB network in 2025 and fully switch over to LTE-M, which really sets the tone for the market. The main use cases there are asset tracking and smart metering. Meanwhile, in Europe, LTE-M continues to develop steadily. Operators are shifting focus from large-scale network deployment to deepening commercial applications, and they're working closely on integration with 5G. Here as well, LTE-M is mainly being used in asset tracking applications. So, with 2G and 3G networks inevitably being phased out, a lot of innovative IoT companies are searching for a new connectivity solution. They need something that can replace the role of 2G and 3G, but also deliver better performance, high reliability, secure coverage, and great cost efficiency. And that's where LTE Cat 1 comes in. It checks all those boxes, providing what many see as the sweet spot for medium data rate applications. This technology was actually first introduced way back in 2009 with 3GPP Release 8. It's a standardized LTE technology that's become the ideal solution for situations that don't need super high-speed data but still require the rock-solid reliability of a 4G network. Now, as we've talked about, 3GPP also created LTE-M and NB specifically for IoT. NB is a perfect fit for static, low data rate scenarios. But on the other hand, LTE-M speed and reliability haven't quite lived up to expectations for some medium rate applications, things like wearables, security cameras, or advanced logistics tracking. This kind of left a gap in the mid-tier IoT market. Here's the key thing to understand. Cat 1 was originally designed as a simplified version of traditional 4G LTE. Its main goal was to handle the medium and low-speed jobs that 2G and 3G used to do, but at a lower cost. It wasn't specially engineered for enhanced coverage like some other technologies. In terms of specs, Cat 1 is widely adopted by carriers globally. It offers about 10 megabits per second downlink and 5 megabits per second uplink, with a latency of 50 to 100 milliseconds. It uses up to 20 megahertz bandwidth, operates in full duplex, and supports tower handover, just like your phone. What this means is that Cat 1 can achieve much higher data rates than what's possible with LTE-M or NB. The trade-off: it consumes a bit more power and has a slightly shorter signal range. And this capability is exactly why IoT companies are taking a fresh look at the well-established Cat 1 technology. It also explains why, after being somewhat overlooked for years in the 4G era, Cat 1 is suddenly getting a lot of attention from tech companies again. It's perfectly positioned to fill that mid-tier gap. When we look at the market size for Cat 1 connections in 2024, it's not just one simple number. But the data from firms like Wise Guy Reports and IoT Analytics gives us a really clear picture. They report that the Cat 1 module market was worth about $4.7 billion, and it's projected to grow to over $10 billion by 2032. Just in 2024, we're seeing revenue grow by about 14%. So, what's driving this growth? Two main things: the continued phasing out of 2G and 3G networks, and the adoption of newer versions of the tech, like LTE Cat 1 bis. One of the biggest strengths of Cat 1 is its incredible coverage. You can use it pretty much anywhere there's a 4G LTE network. That means it's available across most populated areas in North America and Europe, and similarly in other regions like Australia and Asia. Now, just like with any cellular service, coverage in very rural areas can be a bit spotty. But because it's so widely available, it's become a really reliable and go-to choice for all those IoT applications that need to migrate from the old 2G and 3G networks. It really hits that sweet spot. Let's talk about LTE Cat 4. You can think of it as a performance tier or a speed grade within the 4G network. It was one of the key standards defined early on to deliver true high-speed mobile broadband. A great way to picture it is like the fast lane on a highway. Its core feature is speed. We're talking about a peak downlink of 150 megabits per second and a peak uplink of 50 megabits per second. What does that speed actually mean in practice? Well, it means you can stream 1080p or even 4K HD video smoothly, download large files and software updates really quickly. It provides a stable, strong connection for bandwidth-heavy uses like mobile offices and online gaming. Now, before IoT became a mainstream concept, Cat 4 was primarily serving our early smartphones and tablets. It was the backbone of our mobile internet experience. But it was also crucial for high-speed mobile broadband devices, like our 4G industrial cellular routers, and for professional equipment that demands high data rates, like HD security cameras and live video broadcasting setups. For these kinds of applications, Cat 4 has always been the go-to choice. As IoT technology has evolved, we've gotten more of these specialized gears for different needs. And that makes the role of Cat 4 really clear. Think of it this way: compared to Cat 1, Cat 4 is much faster, but it also comes with higher cost and power consumption. This has really positioned Cat 1 as the cost-effective choice for mid to low-speed IoT applications. Here's the real beauty of Cat 1. Just like Cat 4, It runs entirely on the existing 4G LTE network. That's a huge deal. It means carriers don't need to build anything new or spend money on new infrastructure. Because it leverages the maturity and massive global coverage of 4G, Cat 1 has a rock-solid, reliable foundation to power all kinds of IoT uses. And here's the final piece of the puzzle. Advancements in the technology and innovative IoT platforms have dramatically driven down the cost. Right now, the average LTE Cat 1 module costs about half as much as a Cat 4 module. So, when you stack it up against other 4G options, LTE Cat 1 gives you that perfect sweet spot, a high-value wireless solution for medium data rate applications that doesn't force you to choose between performance and budget. Looking at these use case scenarios, here's the general rule of thumb. In most situations, Cat 1 is your workhorse for handling basic, low-frequency data exchanges. It's reliable and cost-effective for that. Cat 4, on the other hand, enables faster, real-time response and can handle more complex tasks like remote, heavy-duty data analysis. Now, crucially, there are some scenarios where Cat 1 just isn't an option. Think of applications like automatic number plate recognition, analyzing driver behavior, using high-resolution video streams, or even online gaming. These demanding applications require the high-speed, low-latency pipeline that only a technology like Cat 4 can provide. And then you have scenarios like IoT gateways, network bridging, and FOTA, firmware over-the-air updates. In these cases, Cat 4 is often the go-to choice over Cat 1. So the simple way to think about it is this. LTE Cat 4 was a core 4G technology built for high-speed applications. It wasn't originally designed specifically for IoT, but it still plays a key role in certain IoT scenarios where high data rates are essential, like video surveillance. Now, it's worth noting that with the rise of 5G, many of these traditional Cat 4 applications are gradually being taken over by 5G's eMBB, the enhanced mobile broadband segment. Think of it this way. If 4G was like building a wider highway for data to move faster, then 5G is like creating an entire smart, multi-layered transportation network. This system doesn't just handle cars. It can simultaneously manage drones, enable remote-controlled surgical vehicles, and connect millions of IoT devices seamlessly. This is why 5G is called a transformative technology. It's uniquely designed to support three fundamentally different application scenarios simultaneously, something previous generations couldn't achieve. So, it's not just a slightly faster 4G. It's a foundational technology built to connect everything and empower a fully intelligent world. Its true potential will be realized in industry applications and innovations we're only just beginning to imagine. All right, let's break down what 5G is really designed to do. It's built around four main pillars. First, you have enhanced mobile broadband. Think of it as a massive data speed and capacity upgrade. If 4G was a 4-lane highway, 5G turns it into a 100-lane superhighway. We're talking about downloading a full HD movie in seconds instead of minutes, seamless 4K or 8K video streaming, and truly immersive VR or AR experiences, like feeling like you're actually at a concert while wearing a VR headset. Next is ultra-reliable low-latency communication. This is about extreme reliability and incredibly low delay, as low as 1 millisecond. 5G creates a dedicated, zero-latency track for things that can't afford any mistakes. We're talking about enabling remote surgery where a doctor controls a scalpel from miles away, the reaction systems in self-driving cars, and precise coordination between industrial robots. The third pillar is massive machine-type communication, MMTC. This is the foundation for connecting everything. It's about linking up to 1 million low-power devices per square kilometer. Think of all the sensors for smart cities and agriculture. So what does this mean for you? Personally, it's not just about a faster phone. It's the foundation for immersive experiences like VR or AR gaming and the metaverse, and for a truly smart home where all your devices work together seamlessly. For entire industries, this is core infrastructure for the fourth industrial revolution. It's set to completely transform manufacturing with smart factories, enable remote healthcare, power autonomous vehicles in transportation, and revolutionize farming with precision agriculture. It's a game changer across the board. According to a report from IoT Analytics in June 2024, there were about 25.6 million 5G connections worldwide in 2023. That's only 0.7% of all cellular IoT connections at the time. But the growth outlook is huge. Between 2024 and 2030, 5G connections are expected to grow at a 59% compound annual rate, reaching over 800 million. Public 5G networks will continue to dominate, accounting for about 95% of all 5G connections. Private 5G networks made up the remaining 5%, with 1.28 million connections in 2023. By 2030, we'll see strong private 5G growth in China and Europe, especially driven by ports, office complexes, and other non-industrial sites. Now, according to the Global Mobile Suppliers Association, 493 operators across 150 countries are investing in 5G. Out of those, 214 operators in 85 countries have already launched commercial 5G mobile services. Western countries are leading the way in deployment. The Americas currently have the widest 5G coverage. Based on data from Viavi Solutions, the US and China have the largest number of 5G-enabled cities. Of course, as the technology keeps evolving, these numbers are always changing, so just take them as a snapshot for reference. All right, this next chart is really important, especially if you're new to all this. I'd suggest taking a screenshot. It gives you a great side-by-side comparison of the different technologies, from non-cellular options like LoRa to cellular LPW1, all the way up to the higher-speed cellular tech like Cat 1, Cat 4, and 5G. Now, just to be clear, Cat 4 and 5G are in a completely different league compared to NB and LTE-M, which are all about low power, wide coverage, and low cost, but at very low speeds measured in kilobits per second. Cat 4 and 5G are the opposite. They're built for high performance and speed, and they sacrifice power efficiency and cost to get it. Let me give you a simple way to think about their coverage and range. LoRaWAN is like a versatile all-terrain signal. It works great both indoors and outdoors. NB is like a submarine. It's designed to dive deep and reach the most remote, difficult spots, but it struggles with high mobility. LTE-M is like an all-wheel drive vehicle. It can handle some rough spots and stay connected on the move. 4G Cat 1 is like a reliable family sedan. It's super efficient and cost-effective in well-covered urban areas, but it's not for extreme environments. Cat 4 and 5G are like high-speed data trains, built for moving massive amounts of data reliably, even in tough conditions. Now, a quick technical note. NB does have a stronger signal punch than LTE-M. It can penetrate about 1 or 2 more walls. Think of an NB signal, like a laser pointer, focused and long-reaching. LTE-M is more like a flashlight. It provides a good balance of coverage and data rate. So, while NB wins on pure range and penetration, you can't just pick based on that. If your device needs to move, LTE-M is your only option. It's all about choosing the right tool for the job. And for this final part, we're going to connect all these cellular technologies directly to our product lineup here at Milesight. We've mapped out our existing product models to show you exactly which devices are built for which type of connectivity. Let's quickly talk about our product options and how to plan for data usage. First off, for our overseas markets, we have 4 main models where the NB and LTE-M modules are shared. They use the same hardware platform. And for each of these, we also offer a dedicated LoRaWAN version for even more flexibility. Now, when it comes to estimating cellular data usage, it's actually pretty straightforward. Here's the simple formula we use. You just need to know two things from the customer. The reporting interval, how often does the device send data? Is it every hour? Every day? The size of the data packet for their specific solution. Once you have those, you can easily calculate their estimated daily or monthly data consumption. It's that simple. Leveraging its cost advantage and superior speed and throughput over LTE-M, Cat 1 is now supported in 6 of our models. It operates seamlessly on existing 4G networks without requiring base station upgrades, while maintaining lower overall costs than Cat 4 solutions. Those models are Cat 4 based, and those industrial cellular routers are high-speed 5G based.